All right, for this lesson, we're going to be solving systems of equations using elimination. Elimination just means taking one variable and making it zero so you can solve for the other variable and then substitute back in at the end. What I've always suggested is that you rewrite both equations so that they're in standard form first. So looking at number one, they have them in standard form. And then I'm going to start from left to right looking at my x's. I've got one positive x and a negative x. So I know that when I combine them, that's going to give me 0. So I'm going to start with my x's. So x minus x is 0. Again, you're combining like terms. Plus 3y plus 2y is a plus 5y. And then 17 plus 8 is 25. So since I don't have any x's, then my first goal is to solve for y. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and y equals positive 5. Now that's part of the answer, because remember, solving a system of equations is finding the intersection, which is an ordered pair. So I'm going to take my value of y and solve it back into either one. I'm just going to go with the first one, and remember, you got to go to the original equations. So I have x plus 3y equals 17. So we have x plus 3 times 5 equals 17. 3 times 5 is 15. So our last step before we solve for x is to subtract 15 from both sides. If you need to draw the golden rule line, you can. So now we have x, and that gives me 0, is equal to positive 2. So our final answer for this one is 2, 5. And again, I encourage you to use a calculator to sub back into both equations to confirm your answer. Number 2, are they in standard form? Ax plus by equals c, yes to the first one, yes to the second one. I am going left to right looking for any possibilities. Can I eliminate the x's first? So looking at 2x and a negative 2x, yes I can. So this is going to give me 0x. Positive 3 minus 1, if you need to put a 1 there you can, and you can use your calculator if you're not sure. But plus 3 minus 1 is a positive 2y. 10 minus 2 is positive 8. And I think you can figure it out from now. What times 2 gives you 8. So y is 4. And then I'm going to go back and plug it in. I just use the first one, that's me. So we have 2x plus 3 times y equals 10. So we have 2x plus 3 times 4. And now I'm just going to simplify things out. I'm going to divide, actually I'm going to subtract, 12 from both sides. That gives me 0. So now we have 2x's equal a negative 2. And again, be very careful in your integer skills. If you're not sure, use a calculator. So what times 2 gives you negative 2? X is negative 1. So we're looking at a final answer of negative 1, 4 for the intersection points. All right, number 3. It's a little different than the first two. I'm looking at both equations. Are they in standard form? The first one is, but the second one isn't. So I encourage you to rewrite them. So we have 2x plus y equals 12. For this one, to rewrite it, it's going to be 3x. I need the 18, negative 18 to come over here. I need the y to be on this side. So now I'm going to have a minus y and a positive 18. So if you need to take a moment, push pause to understand why we're putting them in standard form, you've got to keep the variables and the constants aligned to solve with systems of elimination. So again, if you're not sure, take a moment, stop, ask the teacher a question. All right, looking at the problem, I'm going to go left to right. The 2x and the 3x, they're not the same coefficients or opposite signs to give me 0. So then I'm going to go to the y's. If you look at the y's, I've got a plus 1y and a minus 1y. If I combine those, then I get 0. So that's where I'm going to start. That's my elimination starting point. So I've got 2x plus 3x is 5x. This is going to give me 0. And then 12 plus 18 is 30. So I'm asking you, what number times 5 gives you 30? And that is correct. X is 6. Okay, so that's my first part. Now I've got to go back in, take what I have, and substitute. So I'm going to say all of this is step 1. I'm going to come over here and do step 2. Now, your notes don't have to look exactly like mine. This is just the space I have to write in. All right, step 2 is to pick which one I want to substitute back in for. So again, I always pick the first one. And since x is 6, I'm going to change and sub x for 6. So that means I'm solving for y. So 12 plus y equals 12. So basically you're asking yourself, what number plus 12 gives you 12? So y equals 0. If I were you, I would use my calculator at this point and verify that I have done that correctly. But I get an answer of 6, 0 as the intersection point using elimination. All right, number 4. Looking at both of them, and neither one are in standard form, so I got to start with that one. I need ax plus by equals c. So for the first one, it's going to read negative 4x, and then that needs to come over, minus 4y equals negative 2. And then for the second equation, I need this negative 4x to come over here. So that's going to give me a positive 4x, because when you cross that line, you got to change that sign. Minus 4y equals positive 1. Okay, now that I've written them in standard form, I'm going to go left to right, looking at the x's first. I have a negative 4 and a positive 4, and I know that if I combine those, I get what? That's right, 0, and that's what I'm needing. So at this point, I'm going to do 0x minus 8y equals negative 1. And if you're looking at it going, well, that's going to give me a fraction, it can. So divide both sides by negative 8. Actually, I'm going to go back. I'm going to erase the x because it just gave me 0, not 0 x's. 4 x's minus 4 x's is 0. Okay, how about that? That might look a little bit better. Okay, so negative 8 divided by negative 8 is positive 1. A negative 1 divided by a negative 8 is a positive 1/8. So right now, I have y equals positive 1/8. And all of that was my step 1. So I'm going to go back in, substitute it back into the first one. I'm going to use the original equation in case I wrote it wrong. So maybe a little bit different for you, but that's okay. So negative 4x equals negative 2 plus 4y. It will work. Okay, so now I have negative 4x equals negative 2 plus 4 times 1/8. And you can use your calculator. So negative 4x equals negative 2 plus 1/2. So it feels like you're going to keep writing a bunch. Now, negative 2 plus 1/2, if you're going to use a calculator, that's great. It's going to leave you with a negative 1 1/2. And since we're going to be using fractions, I'm going to leave it as a negative 3/2. Now my last step to solve for x is to divide both sides by negative 4. which you can actually perform that step in a calculator as well. And so I believe our answer is going to be, let's see, positive 6. I don't know. Let me see. I'm not going to use a calculator. So it's going to be a negative 3/2 times a negative 1/4. So that's going to give me a positive 3/8. Okay, so my answer is 3/8, 1/8. And I encourage you to check that with a calculator and double check me to make sure I got it correct. If not, raise your hand and let your teacher go over it with you and see if I've made a mistake. Okay, our last problem. A lot of us avoid story problems and we can't. When you have the sum of two numbers is 22 and the difference is 6, okay, I'm going to let x equal one number and y equal the second number. So the sum means to add, so I've got x plus y equals 22 because we don't know what the numbers are yet. The difference of these same two numbers is 6. So I'm going to do the difference of these two is 6. Okay, so now I've got a system of equations, and I have options to solve. Since we're using elimination, let's continue to use elimination. I start with the x's. I don't have a plus and a minus x, but I do have a plus and a minus y, so I know that that's going to be my elimination point. So 1x plus 1x is 2x. That gives me 28. You can put a plus 0 there if you want, if you need it, but I don't like to put them in there because I know what I'm working with in case I make a mistake. But I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I have x is 14. And then I'm going to go back and sub it into the first one. So x plus y equals 22. Okay, I know you're going to make fun of my 2's. So 14 is x. So I'm asking myself, what number plus 14 gives me 22? And even though you may know it in your head, we have to show it algebraically. So I have y equals 8. Okay, so if I add the 2, I get 22. If I subtract the 2, I get 6. So I know I've done pretty good. So my final answer, the intersection point, would be 14, 8. All right, that concludes these notes. We haven't really touched on all parts of elimination yet, but this is just to get you introduced to the concept, and then we'll add to it at a later time.